The day my life tipped sideways started with a manila folder sliding across a polished desk and a woman blinking back tears she refused to let fall. Meredith Hale was my boss, the kind who wore tailored suits and calm-like armor, and when she asked me to pretend to be her husband for 1 year, the room felt suddenly too small to breathe in. I remember thinking about my son's lunchbox waiting at home, about the bills folded in my pocket, about how strange it was that desperation could sound so calm. What if this happened to you, with your back against the wall and a child depending on you? Would you say yes to something that felt wrong just to keep the lights on? I was a single dad in Ohio, still learning how to be two people at once after my wife died 3 years earlier. Thomas Reed was what the world called me, but at home I was just Noah's safe place. I worked hard, kept my head down, and avoided trouble the way I avoided memories. Meredith knew that. She knew I needed the job, and she knew she needed a husband on paper to secure an inheritance tied to an old family trust and to quiet a board of directors who believed a woman alone couldn't lead. She didn't ask lightly, and I didn't agree easily. Somewhere between my son's school fees and her trembling hands, the deal was sealed. We married in a courthouse with borrowed smiles and a judge who had seen stranger things. By the end of the week, my boxes were in her house, a wide place with echoing rooms and a bed that felt like a border neither of us knew how to cross. The first night, when the door closed and the lights dimmed, the absurdity landed hard. Two strangers, bound by a lie, sharing a bed because appearances demanded it. If you were there, heart pounding in the dark, would you have laughed or cried? I stared at the ceiling and wondered how pretending could feel so heavy. Days turned into routines built on careful distance. Meredith left early, came home late, and spoke through schedules and notes on the counter. I cooked, cleaned, packed Noah's lunches, and tried to make a house feel like a home without crossing lines. Noah was 7, perceptive in the way children are when adults underestimate them. He watched Meredith with cautious hope, as if sensing the cracks beneath her confidence. She watched him too, slowly, as if afraid to touch something fragile and real. Pain has a way of leaking out when you least expect it. Meredith's did one rainy evening when a board meeting went badly and she came home hollow-eyed. She sat at the kitchen table long after Noah went to bed, shoulders sagging, the armor gone. I didn't ask questions. I made tea and sat across from her, the silence thick but shared. In that quiet, something shifted. Hardship recognizes hardship. Loss recognizes loss. The year crept forward, marked by small moments that didn't feel like pretending. Meredith learned Noah's bedtime prayer, whispered with him even though faith had never been her anchor. I learned the stories behind her drive, a childhood of proving herself to a father who never believed she was enough. Holidays came, then winter storms, then spring. We played our roles in public, holding hands at events, smiling for cameras, but it was in private that the lines blurred. She laughed at Noah's jokes. I found myself looking for Meredith's car in the driveway, relieved when it was there. Still, the lie weighed on us. Some nights the bed felt like a canyon, other nights like a bridge neither of us dared to cross. I wrestled with guilt, wondering what example I was setting for my son. Meredith wrestled with fear, knowing the year would end and the truth would surface. Change came slowly, the way dawn does, almost unnoticed until suddenly the room is full of light. The turning point arrived with a phone call in the middle of the night. Noah had a fever that wouldn't break, and panic tightened my chest like a fist. Meredith was awake before I could call for help, already pulling on shoes, already steady. At the hospital, she held Noah while I filled out forms, her voice calm, her presence grounding. Watching her soothe my son, something inside me broke open. This wasn't part of the agreement. This was something else. After that night, honesty crept in. Not through grand confessions, but through looks held a second longer, through hands brushing without pulling away. We still didn't speak the truth out loud, but it lived between us, undeniable. I thought about the risk, about how easily this could end in more loss. Meredith thought about the cost of letting go when she had finally found something real. As the end of the year approached, the tension became unbearable. The board was satisfied. The trust secured. The lie had served its purpose. One quiet Sunday, with Noah building a puzzle on the floor, Meredith and I sat together knowing the clock was almost done. My heart ached with the possibility of another goodbye. If you were in that room, would you choose safety or truth? She chose first, not with words but with vulnerability, letting me see the fear she carried of being unlovable beyond her usefulness. I chose next, letting her see the man still grieving, still scared, but willing to try again. The agreement ended, but what remained was something we had built piece by piece, without meaning to. We told Noah the truth in simple terms, expecting confusion or anger. He smiled, wise beyond his years, and said families didn't always start the same way. In that moment, the weight lifted. We decided to start over, not as boss and employee, not as pretenders, but as two people choosing each other. Years later, I still think about how close we came to missing it, to walking away because it began with a lie. The bed we once shared out of necessity became a place of comfort and laughter, the house filled with the kind of love that grows from understanding pain. Second chances are rarely loud. They arrive quietly, asking if you're brave enough to believe. Before this story ends, take a moment and tell me in the comments what you would have done if you were in my place, standing between survival and honesty, fear and hope. If this story truly touched your heart, if it made you feel kindness, regret, or the power of choosing love despite fear, please like, comment, share, and subscribe, so more hearts can find stories like this and remember that sometimes the most beautiful truths begin as the hardest choices.